Welcome back to Foundry Talks. I'm Rachel Stojanovski, and today we have our co-founders all together again. We had our first episode, the three of us, and now we are kicking off our 20th episode with all three of us again. And just a quick intro, we're kind of just going to go through some learnings that we've seen, stuff that surprised us, cool things that we've seen, the connections that we've made. So I guess first off, can you guys believe that we're already at 20 episodes?
That's insane. When Trey proposed, I think that we do this when we started Travel Foundry. And Trey, what was the stat of people like podcasts that don't, there was like a certain episode number we were trying to get past.
Yeah, I'll butcher the stat, but it was something like 90% of podcasts don't make it past 3 episodes, and then 90% of those don't make it to 20. So it was like,
we have to do 20.
Yeah.
You're a top 1% podcaster now. Officially.
Well, I just think that was our goal, and it seemed like so far off to get to 20 episodes, but like here we are in less than a year. It's pretty wild, and it's been so fun. So, okay, so Derrick already kind of teased out that Trey had the idea to start the podcast in the first place. Let's just kind of talk about what we had initially, what our goal was with it to begin with, and then kind of how we've seen it that transform.
Yeah, well, I think the beauty of that idea was like to sign you up for all the work. So it worked out really well for me to sign you up for 20 podcasts. But
the secret's out.
Obviously, with your background, you're the perfect host for it with your time at Four Seasons and being in-house. But I think for me, it was we needed an avenue just to start creating relationships and conversations with people. Yeah. And I think that's the perfect way, at least in my mind, to have some of those conversations without it being like a sales outreach kind of thing. And personally, I've been very pleasantly surprised with how willing people are to come on and have a conversation with us. And I don't think we have any data on it, but our hit rate in terms of like inviting guests and them coming onto the show has got to be 90% or something.
For sure.
Like that. We've had a lot of success and getting some pretty cool guests on.
Yeah, my sister-in-law asked me recently, she's like, how do you guys like get the guests? And I was like, people are just excited to talk about what they have to say, like their knowledge. They're excited to share it. And it has been easier, I think, than I was expecting to get people on the podcast. But it's been like such a great experience in just connecting with so many different people. I mean, we've had like PR people, hoteliers, tech, like Derrick, you guest hosted the state controller of Idaho. Like it's kind of been a wide range, but it's been interesting to see how everything really ties back to hospitality.
Yeah. You both know this, but like as a strategist, like there's so much value in like interviewing stakeholders. If you're trying to understand a business's goal or the challenges, you're like doing like stakeholder interviews, you just really pull out those like nuggets. And to me, this was like, that was kind of why I got excited for this, was learning the challenges for people who work in food and beverage versus people who work in hotels versus people who work with the city. Like there's issues and there's a lot of overlap too, but you learn so much about what people are dealing with on a day-to-day basis. And I think it just puts us in a stronger position to understand those challenges and how can we help people solve for those for the future.
Yeah.
That's a good point. I haven't really thought about like that, but it's almost like an always-on market research tool for us.
100%.
Always having those conversations and learnings. And how cool is that you get the relationships, but also the insights of, what their challenges are and what they're struggling with.
Right.
And I think it was also kind of nice to hear coming from in-house, like, oh, okay, everyone kind of deals with these same challenges. We weren't the only ones.
It's validating to you.
Yeah. But I think to people who listen too, like if you are in that space, okay, people are all kind of dealing with this, but then I think every guest has done a really great job of giving 1 to 2, if not more, super actionable things that you can do to kind of solve or mitigate that problem. So that's been super nice.
Yeah.
So we've had, of the 20 guests, Rachel, who are some of the ones that, I mean, obviously they're all, I won't say only a few stand out, but what are some of the ones that either surprised you or you had like a unique takeaway from?
Well, we've had Sarah Stahl on twice, and she's amazing. And I think her think there's a lot of kind of gray area around influencers or content creators coming to your property and just how to host them, what do you do? And it was really neat to hear from her how she started, at a brand new property, really, and then put it on the map by using the amplification of micro influencers. So she wasn't like, you have to have 400,000 followers or more. It was really anybody. And then she also was really hands off during their stay, which I think a lot of hotels don't do. They plan a very detailed itinerary for them, which in some cases is great, but it was just like a content machine. She just was able to get so much content that you really otherwise wouldn't have had the opportunity to have. And then the guests had a great experience, and it created this like sense of FOMO. Then all these different creators are like, wait, I want to go there. I just think that was like a really, really cool case study that she shared that I don't think many people are taking advantage of.
Yeah, that was kind of eye-opening for me because I think a lot of hotels will say they do influencer marketing, but maybe
Mm-hmm.
it's like a few a quarter. And in Sarah's model, it was like
Every
multiple,
day,
like
like
yeah,
almost.
multiple per week.
She's got it
Yeah.
figured
It was
out,
like a
sure.
week minimum. So
Yeah.
I think it was just like the tenacity of it was kind of
Mm-hmm.
eye-opening of like, no, this is how you actually build a system that
Yeah.
you can create some really meaningful results from.
Yeah. The other thing that she shared that I think I knew, but it was just kind of like a light bulb moment, was that businesses should really engage their tourism board or like their chamber, because the tax, like there's a tax line that guests are paying for, you're paying for as a hotel, like a lodging tax that funds a lot of those programs. So like they are in a great position to help you. Like they should want to help you, because the better you do, the better they do. And so really to like, don't be afraid to do outreach to them and say like, hey, this is what I've got going on. Can you help me share it? Can you help me get it out? What else can we do? And partner with them. I think a lot of hotels kind of forget that that's a resource that they can go to. Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. She's definitely got a really interesting property that she was working with. I think it was Retreat.
Retreat. Yeah.
Uh, to have that kind of influencer volume, it's beneficial to be in like a glamping
Mm-hmm.
space where you have so many influencers that want to stay with you. So
Yeah.
I'm sure we'll touch on it more, but there's something in creating the experiences that attracts those influencers to want to come stay to then get the promotion. Or I think
Yeah.
that's kind of something that Derrick, you've been seeing in the research, is that it really comes down to the experience on property more than anything.
Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely.
All right. What about you guys? Who was a favorite or a standout or something that really surprised you?
I think to me, just something I've seen or noticed with most of the guests is there's just a lot that goes into running a property. There's so many details. You have to wear so many different hats, right? Like you're not really just doing marketing, or you're not really just manning the front desk. You have to do so many things to keep that experience fresh and exciting for people. And there's just a lot that goes into it. And I feel like a lot of hotel professionals just don't feel like they can do it all, on their own, that they need a team, and maybe they don't feel like they can allocate, budget or time or resources to training other
Yeah.
people. But there really is just, there's so much that goes on behind the scenes to make that hotel experience so seamless. And it's crazy to know it's on to the next one. There's really not really a moment to stop and pause and reflect. It's just busy nonstop. Pretty
Yeah.
wild.
Yeah. It's pretty crazy how it's 24/7, all hours of the day. And to just really be nonstop, it's a machine.
Yes.
Trey, go ahead.
Yeah, I was going to say I'm biased on my guest that stands out because I guest hosted that podcast. But the episode with Edward Ruppel, it's probably what, episode 13 or something like that. But
Yeah.
he is an expert on all things local SEO. And my favorite thing about him is how deep and actionable he gets in that episode.
Yeah.
Everything from optimizing the website to your Google business profile to using like schema and some advanced coding behind the scenes of your website is super helpful. And if you guys haven't already, definitely a good follow on LinkedIn. I love how he does his quick breakdowns of other properties and kind of like just his observations. But that's also a really good example of this podcast for us, where on paper, he's not really, but kind of a competitor. But I mean, he's an open book. I just sent him a note the other day, and to pick his brain on something, and he sent me a super thoughtful Loom video back and request of like how he would approach it. And I think it just speaks volumes to this space as well, is that even people who are technically competitors, you never really get that sense, if you will. Like there's such a collaboration in the space that even other agency founders have been super willing to jump in and share expertise and share their thoughts.
Yeah, that's been kind of surprising to me too. And I think something that a kind of a common theme, I know I've shared this with you guys, but almost, I would actually venture to say every single guest, when talking about what they love about this industry or what's so important or what, something they value, it's human connection. Like I'm pretty sure every single guest has said those exact words. And I think that that's something that, is a core belief for us and our team at the Travel Foundry, but it was kind of eye-opening to see that just hospitality professionals in general, that is something that's super important to them. And I think that we have seen that's never going to go away. So even with all the tech in the world, the human connection and how you show up for your guests and how you interact with them plays such an important role still.
It was super refreshing seeing that consistently across the different episodes. You both know that's like baked into our brand's DNA, is like human first, that human connection piece. So it's really cool to know that like we're aligned with that. That's what's kind of motivating these professionals, is that human connection piece, and how do you make that really impactful? Because that's what we're trying to do too, is to connect with, like-minded people, but ultimately to make the guest journey better too. Like that's why we want to do it. So it's refreshing hearing that consistent across all episodes, because I think that's what excites us too, doing our job, right?
Yeah, 100%. So we talked a little bit about our takeaways from the last 20 episodes. So shifting gears just a little bit, do you think that there is anything from our time doing the podcast that has made you more excited about the services we offer, the solutions that we offer to clients and people we work with?
That's a good question. And I was thinking about that before we jumped on. Like, what am I most excited about with our service offering? And I was jotting down some notes and I just ended up writing them all. So like, that's not going to work as an answer. I think if I had to boil it down for me, and this is a little bit premature maybe, because by the time this episode comes out, I don't know if this will be an available service yet, but is the booking diagnostic tool that we're working on. Because I think hoteliers, at least in the space that we're in, struggle with understanding the levers to pull on the commercial side. And so what we're working through is helping hoteliers really diagnose everything from the business, from inspiration to discovery to booking to the on property visit to post stay, and mapping what they're doing from a marketing perspective and helping them outline what are the levers you can pull to start shifting more from OTAs over into direct bookings. So to me, that was kind of like a light bulb moment I feel like we had in our leadership meeting. That was like, we need this kind of universal model, if you will, to evaluate performance and be able to take that just like a doctor would diagnose you, to have that and have a proactive prescription that comes out of that. And here's exactly what you need to do to get forward to your, booking targets or revenue goals.
Yeah. And I like that was, that really came out of seeing a lot of common problems or like pain points for different people we were meeting with and talking to. So yeah, hopefully by the time this episode airs, we'll have that ready.
We're pretty close. Yeah. And Trey, I think you nailed it. I think almost regardless of the industry you're in, so many people just focus on that like point of sale, right? Like, oh, they booked a reservation, so like my job's done. But I think that was really eye-opening for us, is like, hey, there's this whole like second half, that you need to deliver as a marketing professional to make sure that people are coming back and that they're not evaluating another competitive set, that they want to just come right back to your property. And there's a lot of things that you need to have in place if you want to get to that level. And unfortunately, I think a lot of hotels just don't focus on that. They focus so much on kind of in the moment, hey, just got to get people to book. They focus a lot on the inspiration, the beautiful social, that kind of helps people fantasize about being on property. But once they book, it's almost like their job's done. But there's this whole second half that brand diagnostic tool we're creating kind of reveals, and I'm super excited to share it with the world. I think it'll be really cool.
Yeah, I think it's going to be awesome. I think for me, this kind of goes back to that human connection and the storytelling and how important strategy is. But I think that like you don't need to do everything, but you need to do the things that you're doing well, and it needs to be coming from a place of having like really strong strategy as your foundation. And I think kind of like you said, Derrick, you're just wearing so many hats when you're in the operation. It's hard to remember that. And so you're just trying stuff. But really, if you just like scaled it back a little bit, and I think about Noelle, because she talked from Luxe House, she talked about this. She was like, we don't need to do everything, but we need to do the things that we're doing. Like, let's pick the things that are going to resonate the most with who we're trying to get, and like, let's go all in on those. And so
Yeah.
I think about that a lot and how important strategy is. I think a lot of people think, oh, I'll just get to that later. I need to do this now. I need the sale now. But really, if you had that in place first, everything else just, it becomes that much easier.
Yeah, and I like that because we take a very like brand focused or brand led approach to anything. If someone wants help with social, we'll take kind of a brand led approach with that. But I think what I like about the way we've set ourselves up as an agency is we're very adaptive. I think a lot of agencies force this rigid process of like, oh, you want a website or you want a new logo, it's going to be 4 or 5 months till you get there because we have to do A, B, and C. And we know that just doesn't work for clients sometimes. You need stuff right away. So I like that we're able to be adaptive, but still kind of put this like very strategic lens on anything we do. It just, clients need results right away. And sometimes they don't have 4 or 5 months to wait to see a new website. So sometimes you got to just get stuff done right away, but doing it in a very strategic way that helps them see the value of the other services we can do is definitely something that gets me excited.
Yeah, and even just being able to say like, okay, yes, we understand social is right now. We will do that in tandem. Like some strategy will be taking place at the same time. It's not just one or the other. Right. And I think that's kind of unique. We're able to offer that too.
Yeah, Rachel, I don't want to put you on the spot, but I'm going to, I guess. One thing that
Thanks.
I've really learned a lot from you is on setting up really unique activations on property, and then how you promote that through an integrated campaign.
Yeah.
That is something that is actually, I think a lot of marketers wish they could do. Like a lot of times marketing doesn't have a seat at the table to do that kind of thing on property. And so I'm curious if you can maybe talk us through how you approach, like first, I guess, explain what it is, how you kind of like roll it out to whether it's F&B and rooms and spa, and how you roll that out for like a marketing campaign across different channels.
Yeah, well, I guess first I shouldn't take the full credit for this because this template that is kind of like my holy grail came from someone with the Four Seasons Boston team. So thank you. But so the whole idea behind this is all of your outlets should be working toward one goal or one main goal. So instead of the spa running like a 20% off promotion for Mother's Day and food and beverage having a breakfast buffet or, just different things, let's all be aligned under one central theme, whether that's the month or the quarter, and then trickle that down. How does each outlet play a part in telling the story of that theme or that campaign? So everything is aligned. So that's kind of the idea behind it, that everyone is working together so that storytelling comes across in every outlet super strong, and the guest has a really cohesive experience. And selfishly, from a marketing standpoint, it makes it a lot easier to sell experiences if they all tie together. It's like, looks like this robust offering, like this cool storytelling connection to place. You bring in, maybe your chef has something really cool that ties into that, so you can highlight your people. For PR, it makes a really compelling press release and pitch, versus just a singular, hey, the spa is doing a Mother's Day special. Like, okay, who cares? But if you can tie that back into this really cool story, that's just so much more impactful for people to pick up. So that's kind of what it is. And then how to do it. I think, we've almost like really dialed in the process. But from the hotel side, you have to just, I don't know how to say, like the Beckys of the world. You just have to like kind of trust us, but really believe in the vision and empower your team. Like the clients that we have that do this really well, they put a lot of trust into their operations. So if we come up with some crazy idea, we think this is great, let's do it, let's run with it, we'll get the team on board, we'll talk to them. So I think a lot of it is empowering your different outlets to deliver that vision. Does that make sense?
I think you nailed it. And to your point on, it does make the marketer's job so much easier. I think that's something that a lot of smaller hotels struggle with. Even if you just look at their Instagram feed, it's like, how many times can you post a picture of like the lobby and the rooms and your surrounding activities? And so having these kind of quarterly or monthly activations that are constantly changing, it just, as a marketer, gives you so much more ammo to talk about.
Totally.
Like, as an example, one of our clients that are up in the mountains, the Q4 activation is holiday in the high country.
Yeah.
And so there's the Christmas tree lighting in the lobby, like lit sleigh ride through the woods. What else is there? The
like 12 days of Christmas menu at their on property restaurant.
Exactly. And so like, as a marketer, I think you could probably immediately see like, oh, I see how that plays into social and email. It just makes it so much easier to create content around, because you're not just saying, the same thing for the 100th time.
Well, and a lot of times, I think I talked about this with Sarah maybe, but a lot of times the different outlets are already coming up with their own promotion. They're already doing cool stuff. So if you can just get everyone to connect and just get on the same page, okay, this is the theme. Now let's come up with something. What can we do? What would make sense? It almost makes their job easier too, because then they're not spinning their wheels trying to come up with some new activation that maybe isn't going to get that much traction. If it's part of this larger campaign, it's a lot easier to amplify it for everyone. And so it makes the work that they're doing, I think, more impactful too, not just like a waste of time because this promotion didn't take off. It all plays in and is all cool. And not every single thing is going to get the success maybe that you want it to. But overall, I think you'll see, and we've seen it. I mean, we just rolled out a fall campaign. We're kind of at the tail end of that. We're already seeing the results for how that's done. And it was really impactful. So I think, and to Derrick's point about the human connection, you're playing on that, but in a genuine way. So
I love it. For me, it's what the biggest thing I've seen is it's helping clients become really reactive to being really proactive, right? They're able to see what's coming. They can plan accordingly. If there's little hiccups and stuff, they can get through those a lot quicker. When everyone's aligned, there's an integrated theme across, instead of like, oh my gosh, should we do something tomorrow or next week? It's just so much better to operate that way and to plan it ahead of time and have everyone on the same page. Unfortunately, a lot of people just don't operate that way, but we've seen huge results from clients just adopting this. And I think it trains people to think differently too on what else can we do for our guests,
Yeah. Well, and we'll touch on this, but it also, I think, automatically gives the opportunity for the experience to be so much more experiential. So when you're doing things like that, it automatically creates moments that people want to capture for their social channels. Like you're just inviting that type of guest interaction. And I think a lot of times people are trying to figure out, well, what can I do to get people to like make this really Instagrammable moment? And activations like this can really help that.
Totally.
Yeah. All right. So switching gears a little bit, and I know we just kind of touched on this, but what types of transformations are we seeing with our clients who are kind of using some of these things that we're talking about?
Yeah, I think the one you just mentioned, the fall campaign, I know we're still technically in fall, but that's been incredible. I think an additional net 20 bookings or so. And that's the first campaign in shoulder season. So super exciting to see that when you think about what's going to happen when we get into like peak season and the holidays and or in Q1. I think something that's been interesting to me is that the impact that emails having that we're seeing for some of our clients. I feel like I see it all the time. Like SEO is dead, email is dead. Like email is like the number one most underrated channel.
Yeah.
Especially in this space, as you see it all the time. where there's these huge lists of past guests or past people who have stayed and done an activity that have signed the waiver. Obviously, they have to have opted in for marketing communications, but I mean, our client right now, they've never sent a single email, and there's like thousands and
Mm-hmm.
thousands. And so I think a lot of these hotels have more like pipeline at their fingertips than they might be realizing. And so, like we were saying, having all of these activations, and then if you're an established property and you haven't used email, like making sure you get that into the mix and taking advantage of guests who have already stayed with you is
Mm-hmm.
obviously a little bit trickier if someone's out of the state and they need to travel in for it. But a ton of those people are often local, or they come every year, or
Yep.
there's so many opportunities like that.
Well, I think that's exactly what Derrick was mentioning with there's a whole second half of this guest life cycle. It doesn't just end. There's all of these ways that you can stay top of mind for them. And just knowing how to do that, is but that's where we come
Yeah.
in.
It is kind of crazy. I won't name any names, but just like we have our, you know, dream accounts that we want to work with, and we're all in different places. I'm in Colorado, and there's some iconic properties I've stayed at, 5, 6 times, and I've never heard anything from
Anything?
them. And I opt into everything. So I'm a marketer, so I want to like see how I can like dirt out on their communication. And it's pretty wild. Even brands at some of the biggest stages like are
Mm-hmm.
still really underutilizing um, email, or even just really like life cycle and retention marketing in general.
Yeah.
Let me know if you
Time to
guys
do some outreach.
let me know if
Yeah.
you guys agree with this, but it almost seems like certain hotels have like one or two channels that they feel like they're really good at, but there's a bunch of other channels that could be lifting the brand and driving
Mm-hmm.
bookings, but they don't touch it. Maybe they don't understand it. Do you think that's fair to say that there's maybe their focus is limited to a couple things? Maybe it's like heavy on social, heavy on email, but they're not doing, you know, the other pieces they
Yeah, I think that's fair. And I think there's a difference though between like not trying to be everything to everyone,
should.
but then really dialing in on the thing like who your customer is. I
Right.
think you need to still be present on the key channels. Like you need to still be doing something. And I think that email is like just that should be a baseline. Like everyone should be doing email
Right.
because you don't have direct access. Your social following is great and how you interact with people on social is amazing, but you don't have any way to know if they are a guest or not. And you can get so dialed in with your email. You can know if they dined at your restaurant, depending on how you capture their emails, but you for sure can tell if they booked a room with you. And so I think it's just like a great way to stay in contact with people who've already been with you. They've already been a guest.
Yeah, I think to piggyback off of that, even one step earlier in the booking process, and the bigger brands obviously do this very well because they pour so much budget into it, but like the booking UX
Mm-hmm.
often surprises me on how clunky it is in today's day and age, with most boutique hotels. And consumers nowadays with Amazon has completely spoiled us, and Netflix
Yeah.
want everything super seamless.
Yeah.
Uh, you know, really easily, few clicks checkout, and that's just not the case so often.
Mm-hmm.
Where all of a sudden you click checkout, you're now on a different domain that's not even the hotel subdomain or anything like that.
Yeah.
Funky checkout. There's no upsell processes in place. So just going back to the frame of like missed revenue opportunities, I feel like there's a place for these boutique hotels to really mature and step up,
Yeah.
where they start embracing more of kind of these revenue opportunities that these bigger brands are taking, where you see not to overly spam people, but to have thoughtful upsell and upgrade moments throughout the booking journey. And then you have email firing on the back end leading up to a stay. I think there was a stat, Derrick, in your 2026 industry report. This might be jumping ahead, but it was, I think, typically 20 to 30% increase in ancillary revenue between pre-sale or pre-stay email automations was like a benchmark. And so just thinking about what brands can be doing leading up to the stay and pre-booking to really drive the bottom line.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. I think a lot of people don't take advantage of the pre arrival email. And that is just huge. Like even if you can't do it all year long, at least try to do it around holidays or when you're offering something really cool on property. We've seen such great results with including information about holiday dining and a link to make your reservation. Like, so many bookings will come through that pre-arrival email, because you're almost answering questions for the guest before they've even had a chance to ask them. Include F&B operating times, include what the spa has going on, include links to maybe community events that, like, is there a marathon in town? Is that why a lot of people are coming over this date range? Include the details about that. Like, just really easy upsell opportunities, and also ways just to show that you are being thoughtful about what that guest is going to likely be experiencing when they're with you during that time.
Yeah.
So
This, as you guys are both saying this, it just reminds me of like how important it is to just understand who your audience is.
yeah.
There's even different, guest profiles you should be creating or looking at. I think that was really interesting for us as we were up in the mountains, as we were like kind of like observing people coming and going, and you can kind of get a sense for like who the guest is. And I think that's an important part of it. And then kind of validating that with other research, looking at like, oh, who stayed here? What's the demographics and psychographics of all that? Like, it's just really important to have a strong pulse on who's coming through your doors and leaving, and how can we make the most meaningful connection with them? Is that through these channels? What channels are they active on? What types of content do they like? How much content do they want? Like, the more you can understand that, just the sharper you're going to be in just addressing those needs and delivering an experience that other hotels don't. Because it's pretty eye-opening that so many hotels just don't invest in going that deep, I guess, on understanding the guest and who they are.
Yeah. Well, and what's crazy is most hotels could probably tell you that, but maybe they just don't think about it from that lens. They're talking to guests all day long. They could tell you what probably their ideal preferences are, or what pain points are. And thinking about it though from that strategy lens, that's, I think, where there's a little bit of a disconnect.
Well, I think to your point earlier about like the calendar and planning that out, like, I think sometimes it's fragmented. Maybe a handful of people at the property know exactly who they're speaking to, but other people maybe in the spa don't, right? They're doing something that they think will work, but they're not communicating. So that going back to that, I think that's another important piece of having that calendar is like, hey, these are like our larger goals, and this is how we're going to make a connection with this person through here and this way, and this is how they all work together. So it's just, everything kind of goes back to really understanding who they are and what's important to them.
Yeah, that just gave me an interesting idea, and I'm going to try and articulate it on the fly because I haven't really thought through this. But it's almost like if you take like a Maslow's hierarchy pyramid and think about like hotel marketing stack. And so it's like the fundamentals, it's like at the very bottom of that pyramid, you need to have customer insights. Like, you need to know who you're going after, how you position yourselves differently, and how you stand out from the comp set. Then to me, and you guys like check me on this if you disagree, but after that, it's like you need a seamless booking flow. Or maybe even before that, I guess I would say you need like the activations property that align with your positioning and target market. Then you need a seamless booking flow, and then you need like promotion and amplification through your different platforms. So I'm sure we could like wordsmith that, but I feel like that's like kind of an interesting way to summarize what we've been talking about. Is like, so many people they like go straight to the top of the pyramid. Like, there's almost no customer insights, and then there's no activations, and then there's maybe a booking flow, but often not. And there's not a lot of like upsell opportunities. And then they jump right to like ads, social, OTAs. But there's not like the underlying pieces to it. And that's why things feel disconnected or disjointed. But again, I just made that up as we're talking. So I'm curious if that resonates with you guys, or what you might change.
And so now you're tasked, by the time this publishes, there will be a really cool PDF chart
you can
download.
Yeah, no, Trey, I think you nailed it. And I think another thing to call out with that is, if you don't have those like foundational pieces and you're trying to just jump to the peak of the pyramid, like, that's when messaging is the same. That's when hotels are like, I don't really know how we're communicating this different. Like, we were just in Utah, and there's almost a dozen hotels within like a 10-mile radius. And I think initially when we started working with this client, it's kind of like, what do you lean into? What do we talk about? Like they're claiming this, but like we all kind of, you know what I mean? Like messaging's kind of the same. So it's really important to understand like why would a guest want to go to your property, you know, and how do we communicate what we do really well in a different way. So I think that was just something that popped in my head when you're looking to maybe overstep those first few steps, is like that's what you risk running into, is blending in with everyone else, right? Because likely other brands, other hotels have probably skipped those steps too.
Yeah. And when you say blending in, like you really mean it. That was such an interesting exercise that we ran with a recent client where we took different images from their competitors' social media grids, like one from each, and then their own, and made a new grid that was like all the different properties, but with no like social tag or anything. And there's no way you could tell whose property was whose. Like you weren't infinitely familiar with the individual one. And so I feel like
unless you lived here, which that's not who you're attracting. People who live
right. And so we think about like, and we say don't blend in, but it's like, no, really compare yourself visually and in the messaging, and you like literally blend in if people can't tell the difference if there's no logo attached to it.
Yeah.
But what's cool is there's always something unique about a property. There's always something, there's a way to differentiate. There's something unique about you. There's something special. There's that charm. And I love that that's up to us sometimes to uncover that and bring that to the surface. But I mean, I've been doing this for over 10 years, and I've never in any industry we've worked in been able to run into an issue. How do I differentiate this? This almost an identical product. You know, Trey, you and I worked on a stone veneer company where it was almost like Pepsi and Coke, right? Like, but there was a way we differentiated it, you know? So that's what I love, is that there's a way you can stand out. There's something special there, and we need to bring that to the surface, because I think guests are looking for it, right? They want something unique. They want something different, and they want to be a part of that story too.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, maybe that's like an extra layer on the pyramid. It's like consumer insights, differentiation and messaging is be the next one.
There you go.
Yeah.
There you go.
You're on to something, Trey.
It's been super fun I'm speaking for myself, but I think I can speak for all of us, to kind of uncover what those things are. Because I think sometimes if you're on property and you're too close to it, you almost miss what those little special things are. And that's been super fun. I think that's been something that's been one of my favorite things so far.
Agreed.
Yeah. All right. Well, we teased the 2026 industry report, but I guess we can tease it a little bit more, because who knows, maybe it will be available by the time this episode is out. So Derrick, being, head of strategy, you really headed up this project, but why don't you just tell us a little bit about why this is even important for us to create? Why did we even create this? And maybe even touch on what we saw in the 2025 report and some things that are different.
Yeah. I worked before we did our own thing. I worked for a big agency, and we were constantly like just looking at trends, right? Like we were doing new creative campaigns constantly. So I know how important it is for marketing professionals to have just sharp insights and have it really actionable. I think there's a lot of good resources out there where you can access different types of research and information on what's going on in the industry. But a lot of the time there's a lot of jargon in there. It's like kind of hard to sift through and like pull out those insights. So that was the idea behind this, is like, let's put together something that's like relatively small, but like very like high velocity, full of like actionable insights and things that like hoteliers are actually going to care about. Insights on the industry, on maybe the competition. But for me, the biggest thing, and you can see a theme here, is just those guest insights and what is it that they care about. And I think understanding all of those things can really put your brand in a really strong position to demand higher prices and to maybe get into these certain areas that hotels maybe struggle to get to. So just understanding, I think, the competitive landscape, what changes are happening, how's technology playing a role in this. All of those things are really important to factor into when you're putting together these marketing plans and trying to make a connection with those guests. So that was kind of the whole idea behind these industry reports. And yeah, like you said, Rachel, we've got our 2026 one pretty much done. There's a few little last tweaks we're going to do, but the goal really is just to help hotels to understand how they can create better loyalty with their guests and how they can leverage these insights in a really quick and actionable way.
Yeah. Were there anything that you found, and Trey, I guess I'll open this up to you too, anything that was kind of surprising that maybe we weren't expecting to see
I think for me, just because I was reviewing it, was that,
today?
yeah. Well, it's like I'm giving Derrick the fresh eyes, right? So
Yeah, exactly.
that to me was, I was expecting to have to see a lot about experiences, and I think what was surprised me was that because 68% of travelers prioritize personalized experiences over points, and so I think there's a lot to unpack
Unpack there.
with like how modern loyalty programs are changing, where it's not necessarily about like points and free nights anymore. It's starting to shift towards experiences and like Instagrammable moments, for lack of a better word. So
Mhm.
Yeah.
I think that's going to continue to grow, and we're just going to be really looking at like different loyalty systems in the next couple of years than we have been historically.
Yeah. That was what was interesting for me too. Like we know that we know the benefit of the storytelling and of the building those integrated campaigns, but it was kind of I was surprised that guests have kind of caught up to that now where they can kind of articulate like no that's what I want versus just I want something and not really being able to clearly identify what it is, but that's
Mm.
like you know what I mean, like the consumer is kind of caught on like I can see the hotels that are doing these integrated campaigns and that are having these amazing experiences and that's where I want to go.
Yeah.
So
I think one other thing too worth calling out or just teasing people a little bit about the report is, I mean, AI, like we talk about that all the time. It's super exciting. It's going to change everything. Technology is just like at this peak right now in life, right? But I think what hoteliers don't realize is that like guests don't want AI to replace that human connection, right? They want it to work better to deliver that experience, right? They want maybe mobile check-in, but they still want someone to greet them when they walk in. So it's like you kind of have to balance that. There's like this kind of old school personal touch that some people think is going to go away with technology and AI. And then I think on the other side of it, you have some hotels are so resistant to technology. They're like, no, 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 no. Like we have to have this human element present. And you do, but you need to have AI and technology come in and remove the kind of unnecessary friction and make that human connection better. So it's almost working harder for you. How do you use technology to make that human connection stronger? Right. I think that was just very insightful to me. It's like, yeah, technology's here. It's not going to replace people at the front desk, but it's going to make their job a lot easier. It's going to make the guest experience that much better and more memorable.
yeah, I love what you had in there that it was something along the lines of it's not really this new thing anymore. It's something that we use in our day to day.
Right.
And I think that the guests are doing that, are using it too. So maybe you want to be able to like quickly send a message, you know, through the hotel's mobile app and get a quick response, but you still also want someone to be available when you get there.
Exactly. Yeah. I think the biggest thing I want people to know from us as like marketers and stuff is like, we don't want technology to replace people. Like we very much, that's why we chose to be in this space is there, that human connection is just so valuable. But there are definitely outdated, archaic processes and stuff that technology can help streamline and make better. Right. And that's the whole goal with implementing technology is that you don't minimize the human touch point, you amplify it, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, you make it easier. You take all of the busy work and try to streamline that, minimize that so that you can be more present for those guest interactions.
100%.
Yeah. Is there something that we're seeing, and we don't need to talk about it in detail because we do want the report to be exciting when it comes out, but something that we're seeing that maybe people aren't really talking about yet or enough that they should be?
That's a good question. I mean, I think we kind of touched on it. I think just expectations with AI and technology. I think people, I mean, you look at like the CEO of like OpenAI and like, oh, this job's gone and stuff. Like, I think going back to that is these jobs aren't necessarily going to go away, but I think people will need to understand how to use tools and stuff to make the experience better. But I think that's kind of an underlying theme in the whole report is people want a unique experience, and that comes through storytelling, not just technology, but hotels need to be adaptive to that, right? The guests don't want to go in and have this cookie cutter experience. They want people to know who they are. They want recommendations on what are the locals doing. You know, they want to have this like immersive experience that's going to stick with them for a long time. And I think that's something we tried to pull out in that report are some, you know, practices and things that hoteliers can do to make sure they're delivering on that, because it's something guests want.
Yeah, that actually makes me think of when we had Odessina on the podcast. She talked about a couple hotel stays that really played into their destination and created a really cool sense of place to where they, you know, more than just like farm to table, we used local ingredients, but they had, I think it was a Belmont, they had a like bee sanctuary, and they had this really cool local tie-in to people who tended to the bees and this whole cool story. And then the honey was used in cocktails and in spa products and all kinds of stuff. So I think that that's something too. I think not being afraid to tie in local partners is something that is more hotels could take advantage of, especially as we move towards to just really experiential based stays. How can you partner and not really seeing them as competition, like highlight a local restaurant, you know, like it, guests aren't going to want to have every single meal with you, you know, the entirety of their stay. So partner with a cool restaurant that's doing something cool. Maybe you do a crossover pop-up dinner, or who knows, you know, there's so many things that you can do to really highlight your destination.
Yeah, Trey, you're a huge advocate for that, of like playing nice with the competition, but it works. We've tried to operate that way as an agency, but like that's absolutely something we try to push our clients to do too. Is like, hey, can we collaborate? Can we bring them up here too? Can we go down there? Are there ways we can do things that make this a win-win for everyone?
Yeah. I'm a huge fan of partnerships and collaborations, and they create so many opportunities as well for AI and SEO enhancements as well. So getting featured on other websites, getting backlinks to your site, it's all super impactful. And so I think you can imagine, you know, from let's say a hotel and restaurant partnership, you have some of the obvious advantages where if you book direct, you get this additional perk, and now you're driving more traffic from OTAs. But even just having some kind of co-marketing opportunities where you're emailing each other's lists and you're drumming up business in other ways. Like I really just see it as like a rising tide raises all ships. And so if you can all collaborate in a way, it just makes it that much more impactful for everyone. And now you kind of build this engine where like everyone's bringing customers together and sharing them and creating revenue opportunities for everyone involved. So that could be a whole nother podcast.
Partnerships.
Partnerships. You're seeing a lot of it like on the e-commerce side already.
Yeah.
And I feel like the hospitality space is probably, I hate to say it, like 10 years behind e-com in a lot of ways. And so that's going to be coming in the next couple of years, because I think what e-com has done is they've figured out that with partnership referrals, if you can set up a relationship where you are referring customers at a lower cost than your acquisition costs, it's kind of like a no-brainer. And so they've done the math and kind of figured that out on how to scale it. And so that's going to be, I think, coming to hospitality, but it doesn't need to be super complicated. Like you're saying, pick a local restaurant that you already go to anyways and that you love, feature them in your newsletter, have them do the same for you, create perks for booking direct. And there's a lot of really cool things you can do that way.
Yeah. So all that and more in the 2026 industry report.
Hopefully it's available when this launches, this episode.
Yeah, it'll be linked in the show notes.
That's right.
Well, I feel like we've just had, it's been, I think just to kind of wrap it all up, an overwhelming positive experience to have the different guests on that we've had. I know I've learned a lot. I think at first I kind of went into this feeling like I needed to be an expert on all of these different things our guests were talking about so I could be a good host. But I think going in with just an open mind and being like, it's just such a learning experience. I felt like it was like mini master classes almost with different experts in all these different subjects. And it's been amazing. And I'm just so grateful for all of our guests that have been willing to come on and just share their industry expertise with us. And I'm proud of our team too. 20 episodes. We're like, what, the top 3%, top 1%? It's pretty amazing.
Real team effort here, equally for everyone.
100%.
So, I mean, I think you've done an incredible job, and I'm curious, how will you be approaching the next 20 episodes differently, or what would you do differently if we started again from episode 1?
Yeah, I think kind of what I said. I think I was wanting to make sure that guests we had on, I felt like I kind of knew enough about what they would be talking about to be able to like contribute strongly to the conversation. But I think I want to try to have people who really I don't know much about, like when you were like, do you want to host this or can I guest host Edward's episode? I was like, oh, you do it. Like, that is not my wheelhouse. I'm not an expert there. But then I listened to it and I was like, wow, this was awesome. And so I think trying to have industry professionals maybe from areas where I don't feel as confident is going to be something that I look forward to. And just kind of expanding not only our network, but learnings that then we can take and put into practice.
Love it.
Yeah, love it. Are we going to do another one of these in 20 episodes from now? Is that new tradition?
Yeah, so you don't have to do another episode with me until we get to 40.
All right. We celebrate all the hard work you get.
Yeah, exactly. Well, thanks so much for listening to Foundry Talks. And if you want to listen to more or check out any of the specific episodes that we mentioned on this episode, you can find us on Spotify and Apple Podcasts. And just to hold us accountable, you can find the 2026 industry report and Trey's new graphic linked in the show notes. Thanks, you guys, for being on.
Yeah, thank you.
Of course. Great job, Rach.